During the time when my cousin used to work at a bakery in El Salvador, he was responsible for making and preparing the bread. He worked at the owner's home, where they had converted the front of their house for selling goods, and the back for baking bread. The rooms and the resting areas were situated toward the middle and the back of the house. With the owner's permission, that was the area where my cousin would take short naps. He would set his alarm on his phone, and when it was time, he would wake up and put the bread to bake in the oven. Simple, right? He would do this every night he worked, repeating the process. Then one night, he saw something that almost made him quit the job. Following his routine, he placed down his sleeping pad as usual, where he had a view of an old rocking chair in the room. He laid down on the sleeping pad and closed his eyes. Minutes had passed with him tossing and turning, but unfortunately, he couldn't sleep. Unable to sleep for some reason, he sensed that someone was watching him. So he decided to turn around toward the rocking chair. When he did, and as soon as he opened his eyes to see who was watching him, he saw an elderly lady sitting on the rocking chair, just looking at him. She had been swaying back and forth on the chair, observing him as he tried to sleep. Noticing the lady, he got up, scared, and ran toward the back, reaching the oven. At the moment he was running behind the oven, the owner of the bakery was walking out of her bedroom with her hair in a mess. Upon seeing her in that state, he let out a terrifying scream. The owner, not knowing what my cousin had witnessed just seconds prior, took his screaming as a joke due to her raggedy appearance. So jokingly, she screamed in fear back at him. Not treating the moment as a laughing matter, he told her why he had screamed when he saw her. He explained that just seconds earlier, while trying to sleep but unable to because he sensed someone who was watching him, he turned around to see an elderly woman in the rocking chair. This didn't surprise her because she knew who that lady was. So she began to tell him, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, that's my mother who passed away. That rocking chair belongs to her. She appears here and there every so often to sit there." Upon hearing this sudden news, he asked her why she didn't tell him before he started working here. Her response was she didn't want to scare him away from the job. Knowing this info, he contemplated on leaving, but he needed to work. And from that night on, he never slept near the rocking chair again. Recently, I was surprised to learn about a story that I had never heard before. It was about my younger brother's experience during our family vacation in El Salvador several years ago. We were staying at my uncle's house, occupying 2 rooms on the second floor. My younger brother shared a space with our parents, while my older brother and I shared a different room. The bathroom was conveniently located just a few feet away from my younger brother's room. Late at night, while everyone was fast asleep, something unexpected occurred. My mother suddenly awoke and noticed that my brother wasn't in his bed. She wondered where he could be, and then the soft glow of the bathroom lights caught her attention, leading her to assume that he was inside. She waited for a while, but there was no sound coming from within the bathroom. Fearing the worst, she approached the bathroom door and gently knocked, asking if he was okay. However, instead of giving a normal response, he replied with a low, "Hmm?" She then asked again if he was okay, and he whispered, "No," revealing that he couldn't move because he felt someone was watching him. He explained that he sensed someone or something outside the window, watching him. This explained his earlier silence in the bathroom. She told him to start praying and advised him to not to look in the direction where he felt the presence. With her assistance, my brother mustered the courage to leave the bathroom on his own. I went to talk to him about it, and he confirmed that it had indeed happened. In his peripheral vision, he saw a dark figure peering inside through the window, casting a menacing shadow into the room. It was at this point that he became paralyzed with fear, unable to move or make a sound. After a few minutes of tense silence, my brother heard a screeching noise coming from the direction of the window where the dark figure had appeared. The figure began to scratch at the glass, sending chills down my brother's spine. He recalled the mythical tales of creatures in El Salvador and the warnings from our family not to make direct eye contact with them, as it could lead to being hypnotized. While there were security bars on the windows and it was closed, my brother couldn't shake the feeling of fear, understanding that the creature was only a few feet away from him. Who wouldn't have been terrified in that situation? My grandpa's house has always been a hub of paranormal activity, with strange occurrences happening there. Sometimes you hear footsteps as if someone were walking, but when you expected to find a person, there was no one to be seen. There was also a massive mango tree in the backyard, right in the center. My family used to plant various things in the backyard, but whenever they tried to plant near the mango tree, nothing would ever grow. If it did, it would wither almost immediately. While I don't have personal experiences, other family members do, and here are their stories. After my grandpa's passing, strange occurrences began to haunt his house. One of his greatest passions was his black pickup truck, well known within the family. He cherished driving it around town. However, after his passing, the truck spent most of the time in the garage. Family members staying at the house noticed something eerie. My grandpa's truck would start up on its own, without any apparent reason. They didn't think much of it, perhaps it was just faulty wiring causing the truck to start on its own. This became a regular happening with my grandpa's truck, but it only occurred when the truck was parked at his house. So one day, we decided to remove the truck's battery just to test whether it would start again. As we went about our day, engaged in conversation with family members, we suddenly heard the sound of the truck starting. This was truly surprising. Not only did the car start, but the radio also came to life. However, all that emanated from the radio was pure static. It seemed like the spirit of my grandpa was still connected to his truck. And these eerie occurrences didn't stop here. One night, as my cousin gazed out into the backyard wide awake, he recalled seeing a horse entering the garage and then walking down towards the mango tree. The horse had a somewhat transparent appearance, a white figure just strolling toward the mango tree without interacting with anyone. It would simply position itself next to the tree and eventually vanish, right before my cousin's eyes. This strange phenomenon occurred every so often. My cousin believes that there might be something hidden deep in the roots of the mango tree, preventing plants from growing around it. Perhaps there's an old relic or some mysterious force that attracts the transparent horse to the tree, causing it to materialize and then vanish. My sister and I came to visit our family here in Mexico. When we were younger, weird things would happen over here. As we got older, we would brush them off as coincidences in a wild imagination. Even though there were 2 full beds in the room, her and I shared the same room and the same bed, just to be safe. We haven't had any bad experiences until recently. Around 11 p.m. tonight, a fight broke out between the two of us. She yelled, I yelled, and we ended up both physically fighting. We told each other off and somehow managed to stay in the same bed. I mention this because it's completely out of character for us, and it's the only unusual thing that has happened during our stay here. At 3:26 a.m., she tapped me on my shoulder, trembling. Her eyes were wide open, staring past me. Without hesitation, I embraced her, and she clung to me. She asked me to check if there was something behind her. I had to lift my body to peek because she was so close, and when I did, there was nothing. Through her sobbing, she managed to tell me that something had tried to take her. She managed to tell me that she was sleeping and woke up to her body feeling extremely heavy. She could see me sleeping face up, but I seemed far away. While she tried to process what was happening, she felt a massive yank that she described as her soul being pulled. She compared it to what she imagines being kidnapped feels like, feeling scared, shocked, vulnerable, uncertain of where you're headed. At this point, she's on one bed and I'm on the other, facing each other. While she's in tears sharing her experience, we hear a chime from a bell coming from behind her. She leaped onto me in a fraction of a second. I got up to try to see if it was something that could have just fallen or maybe moved. However, there was nothing. As I'm walking back, we hear it again, this time a bit fainter, and from a lower point somewhere closer to the wall facing the beds. Around 5:50 a.m., we had a family member say a prayer and come to sleep in an extra bed. None of us can sleep. We aren't people who are really sensitive to ghosts or spirits. To be honest, we are skeptical of the paranormal. I tried to dismiss this as sleep paralysis, but this was more than just not being able to move. What were the bell sounds and what was the thing that happened at 3:26 a.m.? Is there someone in our room trying to scare us?